I know there's some projects within IMTC that are also healthcare related.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, we do a lot of work with older adults, people with disabilities, health and wellness, both wearable computing and like ubiquitous computing, so having things installed in the home. And I was going to say, as you were talking about that, I think the challenge is coming up with, when we start talking about like medical devices and things, that the person wearing it is getting an immediate benefit. My experience with wearable computing, because it first got a foothold in manufacturing. And so whenever you start making someone wear one of these things, if it's not immediately benefiting them, maybe it's benefiting maybe grandma, it's like, well, if you would just wear this, then I would know you're okay, or if my 5-year-old would just wear this. But if it's not benefiting them, you'd be surprised how quickly those devices are lost, broken, oh, this just doesn't work for me, so I think it's an interesting design challenge. There has to be this immediate value.
Yeah, and I think on top of the value also, this is something people, especially for health, it's something people are putting on their bodies. So if they're wearing it in public, what does it say about them? If it's beige and it looks like a medical device, then they're calling out to themselves that maybe there's something wrong. So I think there's also an aspect to these wearable devices on how we make them, so people will wear them.
Oh yeah. Well, I think of the anecdote, it went around on the web a while ago. There was a little boy that had to wear an insulin pump, and he felt bad about it, so his parents both got a tattoo of an insulin pump so that they would always, band them together. But yeah, absolutely, you don't want to be the kid in the playground with the weird medical thing, but if it's the cool technology that's letting you do something, that the other kids, maybe they'll all be interested in wearing it, And I think there's a lot of value in a device that can be used for medical purposes or assistive technology, but that is actually, kind of has universal design principles and could provide value to lots of different types of users.
Yeah, for real. I mean, there's, I know of another project at Georgia Tech where students were wearing wristbands, not students at Georgia Tech, but younger children were wearing wristbands with accelerometers, and they didn't want to wear them because they looked like just a black box. But as soon as you turn that into like a Hello Kitty watch or something like that, then they're excited about having something that maybe is actually a secondary thing, that it looks like that, but to a kid it's important.
And for us, with these products I mentioned to you, we're actually selling accessories with them, so you can pick different colors and different looks to, again, get the kid excited about wearing this watch. And again, giving them a phone too. And a 5-year-old's excited about being able to hit a button and talk to mommy too. So
that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that's where it's important to work with these influencers. I know Tori Birch, a women's fashion designer right now, is working on bracelets in the same area for women and for health reasons and doing all of that. So again, it's getting these people involved to do this and that are developing fashion, because they need your help. They'll start to develop it, but they don't understand it. So
yeah, we had a conversation earlier about what segment of the industry you thought that these really completely wearable technology garments might fit in, and how it's hard for the mass market and what is called ready to wear, which is when you go to the mall and buy, well, that's actually street, but when you go to the mall and buy a Chanel coat, that's ready to wear. So we talked about that it might even be a higher level of fashion to be able to bring in the luxury of having all of these.
What happens if you understand, it's because of the cost effectiveness of this right now, is that probably the way for me to describe it, and it may be hard for you to understand, is that if you understand what couture is, it's the highest end. And in the fashion world, we have multiple fashion weeks, and when they say there's fashion week, that's a ready-to-wear, but then there's a couture that's January and July, that's in Paris and Milan, that is the highest end, and most of the clothes, a dress is 100,000, and every piece is handmade. But they can implement something to the higher end customer to start make this trickle down through trends to the next area, but it's going to have to get these designers an understanding, because there's a consumer willing to pay, and that will pay anything if they think it's what they're supposed to have. But it's actually teaching them and then getting it at that highest level, because then when we get to the next level and we go to ready to wear, in my experience working with everybody, it's okay, how am I going to do this, but what's my markup, what's it going to cost, and how am I going to make a profit on this, because this is sounding very expensive to me. So it's then, where do we take it to the next level and work it within the fashion industry?
Yeah, I just saw there's a small fashion line called Cube Circuit that is using LEDs, and it's kind of nifty. But what was nice, they did a little video of their runway show. And so before they sent the models out on the runway, right before they sent them out on the runway, they gave them smartphones to control the patterns that were going to be on their dresses. And the models' eyes just lit up like, oh my goodness, I can like decide what color my dress is going to be on the runway for you. And that excitement spilled over into the audience because it was so customized to what that person was trying to do.
And that show alone created such a buzz and conversation within the industry. Well, how do we do this? Because they were actually controlling and changing the way their outfit looked as they were, they came down the runway in one color, walked back another color, and how they were doing all of this. So it's, again, creating a conversation right now. How do we do this? How do we do this? I mean, I was saying earlier, I think right now, she's on the current cover of Fast Company is Angela Arndt, who is, created and took the luxury company Burberry to a new level, is now gone to Apple. And now the buzz of the fashion industry is, okay, if she's going and feeling this is important, where do we go? What's going on? Because it took that influencer, that executive now that everybody's trying to figure out, where do we go with all of this now? Because if she's going there, are we missing out on something? How do we get involved with all of this?
So that brings us up to another topic that might be a whole wireless technology forum segment in and of itself, which is when we start wearing these cameras on our faces, the privacy implications. And I know that everybody has some kind of concern and or non-concern about that, and I was just going to offer that up as a little nugget to see what you guys had to say about it.
I have a concern. I don't know about others, but yeah, obviously not knowing what's being captured, where it's going, that's concerning now because it's not, nobody knows what to expect. I think that'll evolve over time though. People start understanding what the social aspects of these types of devices are and how people are using them.
Well, it's interesting because a wearable computer doesn't have to have an outward-facing camera. And when I saw that glass was going to have that, I thought that was kind of an interesting choice. I do think that that's probably the thing that Google Glass does best, is this capturing of experiences and storytelling. And obviously it can be used in ways that, kind of make people paranoid, and I think those are very legitimate concerns. But right now, display technology is kind of limited. The apps you can use on glass are somewhat limited, but the camera aspect is really cool, and I think we're going to see really cool things with that before we see other kinds of applications take off.
The privacy in what it's doing is the biggest concern right now, and I know in our industry, and when it was introduced on at Fashion Week, that was the biggest conversation people were having. And then, and it's also, is it capturing credit cards? What is it capturing with the retail people, and now with the Target and everything that's happening and the credit breaches? This is a big concern of what are they getting from us? And I know I hear that. I mean, I hear it all the way down to my students in a trend forecasting class that this is really cool when you're talking about it, but what's this doing to our privacy? And I know that you're absolutely right. It's a big issue right now.
And that, just to add on to that, outside of the glass, when you look at healthcare, obviously when you're pulling data and it's going somewhere and the people who are using it aren't necessarily comfortable with where that data is going, there's concerns there. So I think, again, it's a bit of education, it's a bit of getting this stuff out there and getting folks comfortable with it.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond, I mean, we've talked about glass a little bit, but it goes beyond that, because anything that you're wearing on your body that's collecting data all the time, even like with your healthcare devices that you were talking about, I think as a designer, I tend to move into privacy by design, and that we insert aspects into the design that let people know what's going on. And I know that glass, back to glass specifically, you have to verbally say, take a picture, or you have to actually click like this. So, of course, people can hack things, but And I have another question here that I wrote down that I think would be good to discuss between all of us before we open it up to questions, which is this idea of these things that are in our pockets and now that are going to be on our bodies. There's a great remake of the Rockwell picture of like everyone at the table instead of conversating, like looking at the phone. So how do you feel about wearable electronics in that aspect? Is it connecting us or is it disconnecting us, and in what kind of ways?
For our industry, we're excited about it. Some of you may have attended, at the college we've become very involved with the National Retail Federation, and they have a big conference. Last year it was in Chicago, we were there. Next fall it's in Seattle, shop.org, and it's the whole digital side of retailing. How do we take it to the next level? And it was a big conversation at the convention about putting this all within our clothing and our body, and being able to help the customer and give the customer multiple platforms and their shopping opportunities, and all of this. It's exciting for everybody and what we're going to do, but now it's like, how do you take it to the next level with each of them?
Yeah. And with healthcare, it has the potential to really connect us. I mean, being able to have that relationship with your doctor or your provider that allows them to monitor you while you're not there. Instead of that once a year when you show up for the physical, if you know that somebody's monitoring you to make sure there's no event that's going to occur, that's powerful. And, again, I think wearables and some of the technology that's being developed is really going to do wonders.
One reason I'm interested in augmented reality is because I think if we can bring the digital information just into the world with us, then it's just becoming part of the real experience rather than this separate experience that I have to, focus my attention on. Of course, that's a very, very far off goal, being able to have this perfectly visually registered digital information in the world, and it has to be designed in a way that it's not going to cause us all to walk in front of a bus by accident or, effectively reduce our IQ by 50 points. But
so
I think that's the answer.
I think really quickly, because to talk about augmented reality and now wearable technology helping augmented reality, there's different camps of augmented reality, and when people say augmented reality, they mean different things depending on who you're talking to. So maybe you might want to explain exactly what you're...
So the kind of academic definition of augmented reality in the area I work in typically means actually registering, tightly visually integrating virtual information with the physical world. When I describe it to people, I always point to the virtual first down line when you watch live football. Think how nicely visually integrated that is with the field. You kind of forget that it's fake, right? And I think it provides a lot of value, far more value than just printing on the screen, the next down is at the 25-yard line. And now they can do other things. They can integrate all kinds of other graphics that look like they're part of the field. That is augmented reality. Now, the work I do is not augmenting a live TV show. It's augmenting the world around you via either a head-mounted display or looking through some sort of a tablet, a magic window. But augmented reality can mean a lot of things about, in some manner bringing digital into the physical. And so Google Glass in some ways does that because it's location-based and contextually aware. But what you see is this separate screen floating up above your eye rather than it appearing like there's a virtual person standing there on the floor or a fake ad looking like it's attached to the wall.
So before we open up for questions, I just want to see if there's any points that you didn't get to make that you had in your mind about wearable technology.
I'll say one thing for healthcare, there's really two big challenges that are going to have to be overcome before you really start seeing wearables take off. Regulation, the healthcare industry, for good reason, is heavily regulated, but some of those policies don't know how to treat some of this technology that's coming out. So until that can be solved, and there are precedents being set every day. They are starting to see some of this technology come through. But there's going to be a challenge until we can figure out how do we streamline that and how do we kind of get some of these products to market faster. And the second area I'll just hit on is who pays for it. There's a big challenge today based on how our healthcare system is set up in this country Today, you basically, the way doctors make money is based on doing work and filing a code for a procedure they did. So if they're not actually doing a procedure, there's no payment, and that's kind of a perverse incentive because now they're basically incented to make sure you're sick so they can treat you. Going forward, you're looking at different models where they're actually going to get paid based on the quality of care. So there's an incentive there for them to keep you healthy outside of the hospital so they're not showing back up. And those kind of things are going to do wonders for wearables and technology because there's going to be the right incentives in place for folks to use this technology. And just the doctors themselves, the whole system of how they get paid, they're going to be moving to salary type systems. Again, you take away that incentive where they got to go do the procedure, it's going to do wonders for wearables and healthcare.
With us, and I am on the education side right now, and we're trying to figure out the next level because it is changing so much, is how to educate and train the designers, train the companies to develop all of this and get it into a mass market. So I think that's one of the biggest areas for us right now.